Alright, hello everybody and welcome back to the EchoiLan Hearthstone tournament.
Hi.
This is our final.
Oh, it's not just a final, it's our grand final.
Alright, I'm Erica Alzaroth-Wood and I am here with...
Matt, Pixie, Carol. Thank you very much for joining us, guys, for the grand finals. For those of you unfamiliar with the Conquest format, this is going to be a best of 7, and each player is bringing 3 decks to bear, so at the end of it all, whoever has one will be able to resurrect one of their decks as their pseudo 4th deck, and for game 1 we have Redox's Zoolock taking on Avril's Freeze Mage.
double Doomsayer in hand already, and Redox just coming down with all of his minions. Gang Boss on turn 3 is very strong, propping the ice barrier right here.
Funnily enough, playing both Doomsayers on turn 4 isn't a bad play because there's a really good chance actually that one of them goes off.
Right, so he's just deciding to go with one.
I don't think that's fair as well. 2 damage Redox needs to clear this out. And
Yeah, very clearable.
We've talked about this before though. Zoo doesn't have much direct damage. Sometimes they run a Dark Bomb, but there is the Abusive in hand for Redox, so he will be able to just pop that on either of his 2 minions, clear up the Doomsayer, but the ping, actually going for Power Overwhelming, wants to preserve the face damage from the Imp Gang Boss, I guess.
Alright, so trading in that Swamp Ooze for the Doomsayer, and Avril's just looking at an ice barrier, and just quick hero
Just
power
gonna
to the
go ahead,
face.
ping up face, and actually drawing into the Frost Nova for the second Doomsayer, plus has that Blizzard to curve into next turn.
Knife Juggler.
Avril is looking fairly good here.
Yeah, so Redox drawing into Knife Juggler, which is very, very strong early game. When you're playing against Freeze Mage, you don't really want to overload the board, so be quite a tough matchup of Redox just trying to play smaller, more efficient minions.
Yeah, and second Ice Barrier gets popped here. This is actually a really great turn for Avril to Frost Nova Doomsayer. Like I said, given he has that Blizzard in hand for larger sized boards now, so this also stops any imps from spawning. Actually opts to go for the Blizzard this turn. Now here's an interesting interaction. It's to all enemy minions and then freeze them. So if you watch, the imp is going to get frozen. Interesting interaction there.
Very spaghetti code game,
Yeah,
isn't
spaghetti,
it?
very. That's a spaghetti and meatball moment right there.
Looking at possible Void Terror this turn, possibly?
I think there is an argument for that. The thing is, there is still the Frost Nova Doomsayer. I mean, granted, Redox doesn't know that it's in hand, but he has to assume that Avril has another kind of board clear. So, Creeper, not actually a bad option because of the Death Rattle. So
yep.
I do like that setup here.
Alright, so just choosing not to play anything else, which is very smart, I think, as Avril does have the Frost Nova Doomsayer in hand. You could actually
Pings off the Knife Juggler first.
and just ends turn.
Oh, that's it. Sure thing. Well, actually, this isn't a whole lot of damage represented on board right here. It's 2 damage once it gets past the armor. So, plus Power Overwhelming, it's a little bit more, but that's Redox's second Power Overwhelming if he opts to use it, and he'll be looking for Abusive Sergeant and Doomguard to be his bursty win conditions here. So this is a big bit of damage now. Actually, I like the Void Terror setup, but again, really weak to Frost Nova Doomsayer.
Really good play from Avril last turn, so he saves the Doomsayer Frost Nova because he knows that Redox has so many cards in his hand.
Yeah, it's waiting for him to overcommit.
Saving for this now, I mean,
This is
if
so sick.
If he drops the Frost Nova Doomsayer, I mean, what can Redox really do?
Yeah, and he gets to draw as well. Yeah, Redox, short of a silence, he doesn't have a way of dealing with this. And even if he does silence it, it's going to be a Blizzard for next turn. There's a chance of drawing into Flame Strike as well. I mean, one way or another, Avril will find a way to deal with this board. But no silence drawn. Can maybe try and tap into one. And it's just a Knife Juggler. So, actually, Knife Juggler Implosion, if it... No, because it can't fit all 4 on the board, so no, not even that would do it. So this Doomsayer is going to go off into a majorly overloaded board.
Very sad to see Redox's 14 and 9 go so quickly without dealing any damage at all, but still very good on Avril's behalf. And he's sitting on another Blizzard.
Oh, really patient play by Avril. He has plenty of time now to drop that Thaurissan, ping out one of the spiders, set himself up for a big flash lethal. Discounting Malygos is always good when you have an Ice Lance in hand as well, because that gives you Malygos, Frostbolt, Ice Lance, all for 10 mana, and that's a lot of damage represented.
Knife Juggler into Implosion is pretty good here, and looks like Redox is thinking about doing that himself, tapping first just to see what he gets. Goes for Implosion.
If the Thorsan survives, it'll be
3
just
knives?
nuts. I don't think it's going to, though. No, that's done for. There we go.
Alright, there we go.
No more Thorsan. Blizzard available in hand,
Yep,
though.
Avril
That's-
hovering over
yeah.
Blizzard for next turn, which he does decide to use, which clears all the board. Drops Mad Scientist as well. Just pings face before he ends the turn.
Now, at this point, he's running short on board clear. He will have Flame Strikes in here, no doubt, but that is both Doomsayers gone, both Blizzards as well. There is still a Frost Nova, but that's just a stalling tool. And actually, this just kind of allows the block to get popped, and Alex Straza being drawn as well. Maybe you even just run in with the... No, okay, I was going to say run in, because that's definitely going to pull an Ice Block and develop the Alex Straza, but that's not the option here for Avril. He wants to develop out his Malygos.
Dropping the Malygos here, not actually a bad play, because Redox can't deal with it at this point. Also, finally getting the Ice Block for Avril.
But he can deal with it.
Oh my gosh, he can deal with it.
He can deal with it.
Very well played
And that-
by Redox.
That could actually spell disaster here for Avril. He's got the block in hand, but he's not going to have enough direct damage with what he's got in his hand there. He has yet to draw into that Frostbolt, so actually developing the Malygos over the Alex Straza has sorely cost him, and he didn't need to. He didn't need to use the Frost Nova. He could have activated his block, taken the damage on board to face, and built up for a lethal next turn.
Yeah, Avril, so actually, he hasn't drawn either of his Arcane Intellects this turn, so he's getting quite slow draw. So just looking to use the Alex Straza, maybe put him down a little bit, and then, I mean, we're probably looking at a Pyroblast next turn. I'm just hoping for the best, really.
Yeah, this is...
Looks like Redox can procs.
Ooh, and again, being punished here for not holding on to that Frost Nova, because this is the sort of board you want a Frost Nova to buy yourself an extra turn. So actually, after some really good patient play early on, Avril has maybe started to play a little bit overzealously. He does survive for this turn, though, so
Not
he can
quite
maybe look for a 2-turn lethal. And, maybe
Not
he'll
quite sure.
have it. He can set up for... Oh, no way. He can set up for lethal next turn. Unless Redox has a lot of healing, that's going to be it.
Quite questionable on Redox's behalf to not keep on attacking face and proccing that.
Yeah. He had taunts up. He didn't need to kill the Alex Straza,
Exactly.
but he did anyway, and yeah, it's cost him.
Could cost him the first game. Let's see what he draws into now. Oh, okay, so Avril actually pinging his own minion, drawing into a Fireball, and Implosion is drawn
Implosion,
by
not
Redox.
Well, he is going to be able to pop the block this turn, and maybe just give Avril another card.
Possibly looking at a draw.
At this point, he's hoping that neither of Avril's cards are damaged, but I'll let you in on a little secret. They both are. And he knows he must be done for here. The Implosion not going to do anything but draw Avril more cards, and
Flame Strike coming down
as
now.
well. And you got to do it. You got to use the Pyro
one
Blast.
health. The first game goes to Avril.
Well, there you have it. Redox, like you said, a bit of a misplay by not popping the block. Avril himself, though, misplaying a little bit by developing the Malygos instead of the Alex Straza. In any case, Freeze Mage now off the board, out of the picture, and Redox still needs to squeeze a win out with that Zoolock.
Alright, so we're looking at Avril. All he has left is mid-range, Paladin, and Control Warrior. And left open for Redox is his Control Warrior, his Zoolock, which we just saw, and a mid-range Druid. What are you expecting for this game?
I kind of want to see the Paladin come out here just to get it past, and yeah, this is a really, really nice matchup, actually. Both of these mid-range decks, and it kind of depends on how quickly the Paladin can set itself up. If he gets early muster and the double quartermaster, not what you're after, early mini bots, early muster, and if Redox doesn't pull his early game, then the Paladin just gets out of control. And
Really?
Paladin doesn't really have the right kind of answers for Druid. It's got a lot of temporary things like Eldor Peacekeeper to deal with big drops, but it doesn't have that straight hard fast removal. And against Druid, you need to be able to remove everything in case of combo.
Alright, really nice starting hand for Redox there. So, Living Roots turn 1, and he can Wild Growth turn 2, and actually play Keeper next turn, or Swipe if he needs to.
I like the Wild Growth here. Just opens up the opportunity for him to use that Keeper next turn if needed. Or even coin out into something like a Druid of the Claw, or even the Azure Drake if he just wants to get cycling as quickly as possible. And I would maybe even like to see Avril clear here in case of that Keeper of the Grove.
Yeah, so Avril thinking about what he wants to do here. He could kill one of the Treants, popping his Divine Shield, and he does choose to do that.
Yeah, I agree with that play here, because it makes the Keeper of the Grove a little bit less good, if that makes sense. I mean, it still clears it, but the second mini Treant will probably go into the Silver Hand recruit, and really it just leaves the Keeper alone on the board and gives Avril a bit of opportunity to start running away with the game if he draws into a 4-drop, because actually Avril's not sitting on a very good hand right now. It's all very reactionary, very situational. He doesn't have those strong curving out minions, which is actually what Paladin is good for. And was that maybe a little bit quick? Actually, no, Muster for Battle is terrible against Swipe, so never mind. He's holding that for 8 mana. For a minute I was like, why would you do that? But no, that doesn't make sense.
So,
Innovate Boom, though.
Dr. Boom coming in really nice for Redox here. Definitely gain all the ball control. The Game Hunter coming down, and just hero power coming from Avril here. Not much else he can do at this point.
Yeah,
possibly looking at a consecration for next turn.
This is actually quite a nice reaction from Avril, and Redox, instead of just curving out naturally, he used the Innovate and maybe ended up in a slightly worse position. I mean, you can say, Innovate is just, it's playing Dr. Boom is better than playing Druid of the Claw. Of course it is, but actually Avril was able to tempo swing quite nicely there. Emperor Thorsan gets developed here now, and Avril doesn't actually have a way of dealing with it. He's still trying to avoid setting himself up for that swipe, but he needs to do something about Thorsan. He can't let Redox get too many discounts off, though. If he's been paying attention, he will know that one of Redox's cards is the coin. So that's only 3 cards discounted so far.
Leaving Emperor T down on a Druid's board is so much stronger than any other class, because the cheaper combo is the faster you can use it. And 14 damage is so much.
This is so overloaded against Swipe as well.
Alright,
Clears
Swipe
out the boom
coming
bot.
in very, very... And the boom bot.
Plus Ancient of Law, actually, he's maybe looking to Drake Swipe just for the extra damage here. Cycles out a card, draws into his Force of Nature as well, and he's really starting to push for lethal here. Already down to 16 health, Avril. If Redox pulls a Savage Roar, then that's it, because of that second tick of Thorsan discount. Dr. Boom won't even be enough if this is combo. Questions. Not quite, though there is the option to cycle with maybe the Ancient. In fact, he can cycle twice using the Ancient and Wrath, and I do like that, because he can just fish for that last bit of combo and then play that whenever he draws it. It's unlikely the Paladin bursts down in time.
At this point, he doesn't even need to clear the Dr.
Wait, no,
Boom.
never mind. Force of Nature, Druid of the Claw, in charge. We always forget about it because, frankly, it never gets used, but there you have it. Redox saw it, and Redox puts himself on the board. 1-for-1 in the series so far. Takes that mid-range Druid out of the picture as well. And both of these players dead tie now.
What an even matchup. Both these players...
It's the second time today we've not seen lethal.
I know.
What are we even doing here? First with Avril's Freeze Mage, and now again with Redox's mid-range Druid. We're going to have to see what they pull out. Again, I'd like to see the mid-range Paladin. I think it's actually, to say that he's the weakest of Avril's decks, and it's going to be coming up against, by the looks of it, Control Warrior. And we are apparently having some issues with the stream. If you will just give us a moment, guys. I don't know that they can hear us.
Can they?
Well, they can't if the stream is down. It'll be with OBS. Just open OBS again. What seems to be the issue? Just hit stop streaming and then start streaming again. Yeah, and then start streaming. That should work. There's a delay. It'll come up in a moment.
Logan, it doesn't have live on. Our stream's still working. We don't know what to do.
Apparently we're offline. We don't know why. We've stopped. Oh, there we go. Aha!
There we
Aha!
go.
Welcome back. We're back. You're back. I'm back. Scratch my back. And we are coming into game 3 of the best of 7 grand finals.
Avril on his mid-range Paladin and Redox on his Control Warrior. Really good starting hand for Avril here looks like he has a slight advantage with card draw at this point. However, with Redox having Deathbite still in hand,
and
I'm really hoping he doesn't muster for battle.
yeah, well, and even failing that, the Revenge is so good, so I like this play. He's actually playing around all the Whirlwind effects, setting up a bigger minion with that Keeper of Alderman, and Redox is actually quite well teched against this deck because of Harrison Jones as well. So Must of a Battle is really Redox going, well, thank you for the cards, and then can possibly even clear with Revenge as well. So this puts Redox in a slightly hairier spot. How does he deal with this board?
Deathbite coming down onto Keeper of Alderman, I'm thinking, and then
I guess, yeah.
he doesn't have the perfect hand at the moment. Is it a... I can't see the cards upside down.
He's got...
Alright, so he does have a Slam in hand, which he's actually going to use on the Keeper of Alderman, and
just wants to
he's going to go for
now.
his Fiery War Axe.
See, as much as I like that in terms of drawing the card, I think it's just strictly better to develop the Deathbite because it blocks out Must of a Battle constantly. And this turn, no other minion to be developed, just 2 mana Maker Guy, and I like this actually. Avril playing nice and patient. He knows he can't afford to overload his board because of all the Whirlwind effects and also Brawl. So playing it nice and slow, going to force as much removal out of Redox first before Avril tries to put on the pressure. But that only leaves you a narrow window of winning against control.
Even if Avril's board is completely removed at this point, he still has so many cards in hand, which can give him a really strong board,
and
board pressure again.
He's got
trading
a lot
into
of
the
options.
Shredder, coming down with the Raptor, which can be easily cleared with the Knife Juggler RNG.
Juggler into Muster. I think you got to go for this one.
Definitely.
I mean, as much as there's a lot of Whirlwind effects as well, this is just good enough. And also
Avril's
would
still
dodge
covering.
Harrison Revenge. Redox should only be able to play one of the 2. He's thinking, does he actually want to do it? Is it maybe 2 all in? What's his other play though if he doesn't? There is just Must of a Battle and make another guy, clear with the weapon, and your existing Silver Hand recruit, but I do think developing the Knife Juggler is strictly better here. Just because it's the one minion that doesn't die to Revenge.
Knife Juggler, Must have
Here
a
we
Battle
go.
coming down.
One knife. He needs at least one to hit the Raptor.
He can
Last
still
one.
clear it.
Oh!
So it
okay,
looks like he is
yeah.
going to have to take the face damage and trade in one of his minions as
A
well.
little bit unfortunate, but all things considered could be worse. Now, Redox, I wonder here actually, do you Harrison and go for value, or do you just Revenge as quickly as possible, get most of that board dead, and maybe... Actually, you can't develop the Belcher after that. You just have to tap up, maybe Shield Slam out the Knife Juggler.
Shield Slam, Deathbite into Shield Slam is not bad at all, or just going Deathbite, clearing the Juggler for now, and just armoring up a little bit, because, I mean, look at Redox, it's only on 19 health, and it's still so early on in the game.
The thing you have to start to worry about here if you're Redox is, if you clear the Silver Hand recruits, it's expensive to clear the Knife Juggler. And if you clear the Knife Juggler, you can't effectively get rid of all of the Silver Hand recruits, and you start to worry about Quartermaster. So I think Revenge is the right play here, and I actually think maybe even using an Execute on that Juggler is a good idea as well.
Alright,
Actually,
Revenge
oh no.
coming down into Deathbite as well. He's actually...
Will he...
He's going to clear the minion.
Yeah, and I do agree with that play as well. Ooh, a bit of a rough hand for Avril here, just sitting on a lot of kind of dead cards, to be honest. The Consecration's not so useful to him, and not particularly strong in this matchup anyway. I was really hoping for maybe a Shredder or a Belcher in there.
Yeah, just going to Hero Power and then leave it at that. Doesn't want to be too much of a victim to Deathbite. Redox just dropping a Sludge Belcher down after you attack.
I actually like developing the Harrison here. I mean, it only takes the basic weapon off. It's not anything like a True Silver, but it's card draw, and having card advantage in this matchup is actually really, really big. Avril, he will be able to develop a True Silver champion later on, but Redox is kind of... He's playing the odds here and saying, well, the 2 cards I draw are going to be more effective than the True Silver champion you are now allowed to develop. And so far, Avril, no True Silver in hand, so... kind of paid off for Redox.
Yeah, so Avril drawing into an Ironbeak Owl, which will be really good for the 2 Sludge Belchers that Redox has in hand. A little bit scary for Paladin, as it's not really a class with too much removal for such high health minions.
No, and the Keeper of Alderman isn't particularly effective here either. Silence doesn't do it. Aldor Peacekeeper would be maybe what you're looking for. It's just going to Alderman his own guy here just to have something on the board. So Harrison can deal with one of the two, and actually Fiery War Axe in hand for Redox is going to allow him to deal with the Silver Hand Recruit as well. Can even develop a Sludge Belcher after that, which I would very much like to see. And or maybe even Armor Tap and develop the Monkey.
That'd be a very good play for Redox. Maybe he's just going over his options at the moment.
So many
that
choices.
That is true.
Indeed.
There are so many options.
Yeah, well, that happens when you have such a big hand. And I think the ideal play here must be to develop the Monkey and armor up, because you do need to pay attention to your life total. The good thing about playing against mid-range, and this is an interesting play. I didn't really consider this one, but as I was saying, the good thing about playing against mid-range with control is mid-range tends to not have bursty win conditions. They rely on having a big board, so if Redox can get board control, he's probably going to be able to keep board control. Double Consecrate here, just to empty out the board. Decent play, and does push Redox a little bit lower, but Avril, he'll need to be able to put on the pressure after this, and already Redox quite high in the mana curve.
Avril really needs to start drawing some of his bigger minions, but having that Aldor Peacekeeper in hand will be really good for some of the bigger cards that Redox is going to play, and Lotheb also very, very good as well.
I think I prefer Lay on Hands here just for the card advantage. The Belcher isn't a big enough threat to deal with it right now, and you can develop the Lotheb next turn anyway, plus Lay on Hands gives you the chance to draw into something like Dr. Boom. He's actually going to go ahead with the Lotheb, though. I'm surprised that Muster has stayed in hand. Obviously waiting for Quartermaster, but I think there's been a few opportunities for him to play it.
Gromma's Hellscream in hand for Redox. Doesn't really need to play it this turn, but if he really wants to remove that Lotheb as soon as possible, he could go for that.
He can actually just spend 7 mana on the Slam and clear with the Sludge Belcher. That's not that bad a play. Still leaves the Taunt alive and can use the second charge of his weapon to clear the Silver Hand Recruit, and that is what he's going to go for.
Could have gone for the Shield Slam also to completely remove it, but having the card draw is also very good, drawing into a Brawl, which will be nice if Avril decides to muster for battle and load up the board quite a bit.
Yeah, and that's really the great counter to the Quartermaster. Lay on Hands now to come out for Avril this turn, and he can actually develop an Ironbeak Owl after this as well. And
there we go. Those are the big cards
there
that I was
it
talking about.
That's just about everything he needs. Now, Redox does have a lot of answers in his hand, but a single Tyrion against a Brawl is really, really good odds. So I wonder how this is going to fall, because there's no good way for Control Warrior to deal with Tyrion. Funnily enough, they don't tend to run silences.
Still, with a 5-3 weapon, I really don't think Avril can be doing much.
Oh, this is nice. This is really, really nice. And also the True Silver sitting in hand now. Avril might actually be able to start pushing it out, because Redox, he's still not drawing into his threats. He's drawing into all his answers. Now, he will be able to deal with this between Big Game Hunter and the likes of Bash and really all his other cards. Probably doesn't need to use the Execute Shield Slam this turn, but he has everything he needs. And, ooh, 4 damage to face. One Belcher off.
Sludge Belcher. Armorsmith giving quite a lot of armor to Redox here, seeing Big Game Hunter coming down and clearing Dr. Boom. Redox, once again, with complete board control.
Now here's an interesting thing. Drawing the Quartermaster, Muster comes down, and he's probably going to make another guy as well, and Brawl is actually kind of bad for Redox here because of all the cards he loses. So this is actually a really good play for Avril. I mean, does Redox just play the odds, go for a Brawl and lose most of his board, or does he try and clear this patiently, knowing that 1 or 2 is still going to be alive and he's not going to have a great way of dealing with them?
Yeah, so Redox can't completely clear the board here unless he does try and go for a really lucky Brawl, but he still has minions in his hand.
Yeah, and also using the Brawl here kind of hurts him against all the future plays of Avril, so the only thing is Redox hasn't drawn into his big threats yet. I mean, he's got the Grommash there, but he hasn't drawn Alexstrasza,
Baron Geddon.
Baron Geddon, Ysera, Sylvanas. So there's a lot sitting in this deck still, and actually it looks like Redox is just going to push for it this turn and then throw out the Brawl, see what happens, and hope he comes out on top. He does have that bash to deal with anything that pops out on Avril's side, though.
So Brawl is coming down, and all of Redox's minions are
It's the guy!
One of the guys lives and gives him a 1 and 2 slime. Bash comes down, clearing the last one.
Done.
And armor up. More armor.
Yeah, now Redox is actually sitting on a pretty good-looking health total. Antique heal bot for Avril. Probably the right play
I like
here.
Tyrion here.
Actually, yeah, with the Brawl off the table.
Knife Tyrion, hope it kills the slime, and then you kill the slime.
Actually, that is probably, his strongest play here. No, back from the junk heap, just for now. And there's the knife.
Just healing up.
Oh, actually, he's going to see where the guy's knife goes as well. Oh,
Alright,
there you go.
and it can go face, so 1 less damage Avril has to take.
22 and 24 health totals respectively.
Justicar coming in for Redox's turn, which not very good news for Avril.
Yeah, that's so big in this
armor
matchup.
in 1 turn.
And a fairly hefty minion to boot. I mean, it does die quite quickly with that 3 health, but it's still a really solid minion, and honestly, it's the sort of thing that's going to push Redox out of lethal range so quickly. It makes it really hard for Avril to actually get Redox low enough to kill him.
Alright, Redox having a go over what he's going to play. I really like the hero power, Justicar True Heart. Hero power here gets him back up to 30 overall health.
Yeah, he looks to just develop a shield maiden for this turn, taking the patient play, going to shield slam out, I imagine, the knife juggler. There's no more musters available though, so that knife juggler isn't as big a threat as it was, but this actually leaves Avril a lot of room to develop the Tyrion this turn. Can even equality out the shield maiden if he so chooses. I kind of like that turn, given that you have Aldor for Justicar True Heart. It's actually going to take the 5 damage to face and develop Tyrion this turn.
Really like the Tyrion here. I agree on Avril keeping the equality for bigger threats such as Gromus and Ysera as well. Ysera is quite hard to remove, so having equality in hand for when that comes will be very helpful. Redox going for a death bite, which he just top decked, and
wow,
Justicar.
That's one hell of a way to make that play. Aldor Peacekeeper, yeah, like I said, there it is. Really good option for him as well, and the Tyrion will go face. It's silly to develop the True Silver here, actually, because it probably gets replaced by Tyrion's weapon, but this is an opportunity for Avril to probably push Redox down as low as he's going to get him at this point in the game, and actually, maybe he does develop the True Silver just to push more damage to face.
Alright, getting him down from 30 health to 14. Oh, actually chooses to clear the minion.
Oh, actually, I like that because it stops the Justicar from going in and execute coming out. So now Redox has to use the weapon if he wants to clear.
Elixstraza in hand right now as well. Might be good for Redox if Avril can't completely kill him next turn.
Yeah, and the other issue right here is both of these big threats die to what is currently in Avril's hand, and then the other can be dealt with through equality and a guy or an Aldor just to stop it out. I mean, 1 damage compared to 8 is a pretty significant swing, so Redox, I mean, what's the play here? Maybe wants to use the Gromash to open up the option for execute, or he doesn't really have a great set of plays here, and he's run out of card advantage. Can armor up?
I really like Gromash Hellscream. You attack Tyrion, execute, and then you're given 10 and 8 just to go face with. Really, I think that's the only thing you can do.
Doesn't opt for that. He actually wants to hit face with this, with the weapon, goes for the execute, like you said, and 10 damage to face. The only thing is, that's a solid 8 damage now that Redox is staring down, and yeah, there's the big game hunter. Redox can Elixstraza himself, but I mean, the saying kind of goes, the moment you Alex yourself, you've already lost. He doesn't have any burst damage now with that Grom out of the picture. And yeah, Ysera's himself, it's temporary, and now here's going to be an Aldor Peacekeeper to stall that one out. And now there's going to be an equality in hand for the Ysera. It's actually looking grim for Redox. He's running out of threats, and Avril is really pushing damage. And actually, he's pushed all the damage. How many times have we done that now? Oh, look at all these answers he has.
We
Never
need a
mind his
calculator,
lethal.
please.
Yeah,
Game 3.
I did maths to a very high level in school. I don't know what's gone wrong here.
Game 3, going to Avril. Avril winning with that mid-range Paladin, which he had such a bad start on.
Yeah, that was a really, really tight match, and actually what it came down to was, really, Redox didn't get his threats until right at the end of the game, and that kind of cost him. I mean, you know, imagine that he'd had that Ysera a couple of turns earlier. Sure, it would have got dealt with, but it would have brought the card out. He would have maybe had options, good times to play his other cards. Wasn't able to develop a Dr. Boom either. So he still has to pull out a win with that Control Warrior, and I don't know if that's really all that possible. I mean, it's going to be Control versus Control at some point.
That is true. So Redox has left.
Still the Zoo and Control Warrior, I believe.
Right.
So, do you pull out the Zoo or do you pull out the Control Warrior here?
I think Zoo is bad against Control Warrior, depending on what sort of Control Warrior that he runs.
There's a chance maybe that you try and push that past the Control Warrior, force Avril to play a different deck for his fourth deck, and yeah, because of course Avril knows that if he resurrects his own Control Warrior, that can come up against Redox's Control Warrior, so he'll want to do something else which Redox might have a better matchup with Zoo. So this could be Redox kind of strategically losing, and if he doesn't lose, he gets to push out an extra win. The Deathlord Tekken for Avril here is actually really big in this matchup.
Yeah,
but
not too much of a bad start for both players. Avril sitting on Deathlord, which is really good for turn 3, and Redox starting on a really good hand. Look at that. Haunted Creeper, Imp Gang Boss, Brand Bronzebeard, which we'll get to see again.
And I like just playing out the Creeper here. Next turn can set up a Lance Carrier, and actually
choosing to go with the Cult of Pain.
I do like that the Acolyte of Pain, I do like that to start with here. Just because there's no rush, you know, there's no rush to stop out some massive Zoo board here, because there isn't one yet, so he can just wait for a little while longer before developing the Deathlord. Maybe look to use other answers for now.
Yeah.
Coin
and Gang Boss coming down, and I think we might be looking at, a Deathlord this turn coming from Avril back again to Redox's turn, and he can...
Oh, he can definitely
clear it.
The question is, what do you use to clear it? And I think, actually, the answer is Brand Bronzebeard, and then you use your Abusive Sergeant onto your Imp Gang Boss. Or maybe he's going to use it onto his own Abusive. I guess no matter how you slice it, both get traded in here. So, gives himself a free Imp, keeps the Gang Boss alive, and clears the Deathlord. Pulls a Doom Guard! Oh, that's massive!
What a lead. Brawl coming in for Avril though, which is really good.
So
hopefully he can pull something off from that.
What's it going to be if it's the
Hopefully
Doom Guard? Oh my god.
Oh, that was so close.
So it leaves the Imp.
Alright, so Redox sitting with 3 1/1s on board, drawn into Knife Juggler, which isn't actually too bad.
Yeah, I think this turn maybe you just develop the Juggler, set up a Lance Carrier and start pushing damage, or maybe go for a Taunt. It's a hard call here, actually. Both have their arguments. I actually think maybe developing the Taunt is better. Yeah.
I think Defender's better.
Yeah, I also think just from the perspective of conserving some of your hand, the less you have to tap, the better off you are, generally speaking. Belcher to come out now, though, and Redox, this is one of the weaknesses of Zoo, is their lack of burst. Actually, that Implosion Knife Juggler is really big here, potentially.
Also, Power Overwhelming in hand, just in case Redox really wants to get rid of that Sludge Belcher without trading in too many of his own minions.
Yeah,
looks like I'm thinking he's going to go for Knife Implosion.
You must at this point, surely. Okay, he's going to go for it now when he feels a bit safer clearing this.
Maybe just not having a very lucky day. Let's see. And he gets 4. Alright. So unfortunately, the Death Rattle doesn't proc first, so all the knives will be going face, and he'll be left with a 1 and 2 slide, but can easily be cleared by one of his 2/2 minions.
Yeah, there's a really great way to clear this board, funnily enough. Avril is able to use his Death Spite, attack the 2/2, and then equip his Fiery War Axe to activate the Death Rattle, and I kind of like that play. I mean, it leaves the Knife Juggler alive, but you can't let this board live. You really cannot. And I think he might have seen that very same play.
Could possibly bash just to get rid of the Knife Juggler this turn as well. Might be a good play.
Yeah, actually that's it's a little bit slower, a bit more patient, and it's assuming Redox doesn't have too much burst in his hand. Now, he actually does have quite a bit, so 16 effective health for Avril. Certainly nothing he's going to be killed from, but this is a lot of damage on board for Redox, and maybe he just wants to push lethal here.
Big Game Hunter drawn this turn. I think a tap here is really good. Just see what we get.
Not going to be a Doom Guard. Setting up the Nerubian is quite nice, though, given the number of Whirlwind effects, and it already loses 1 damage this turn to the Death Spite, so I like playing the Nerubian. I also like setting up the Lance Carrier because, as well, it dodges... what am I trying to say, the Death Spite, and this is actually a really nice play as well.
Lance Carrier on the Spider could have been really, really good because Avril would have had to take that extra face damage as well if he did decide to use his Death Bites. Slud Belcher coming down again, which quite good.
I think you've got to play Belcher and also cycle with Shield Block here. Because otherwise you're just too close to dead. He's going to have to take 2 damage this turn. He is going to clear most of this board, but developing the Belcher at least stops out the big damage from the Big Game Hunter. And
Fishing for a card first goes into another brawl.
And anything is good here. If it's the Nerubian that lives, then that's fine. Yeah. It's going to be one of the imps, so he can hit the Nerubian and clear the imp. That was a really great draw off that shield block.
That was really good. Coming into Redox's turn now, looking to get us some board control back.
Oh, that's so unfortunate.
Doom Guard in hand,
but he would
don't want to play it.
He would discard all the other damage boosters. He needs to tap into something
He would
else.
have lethal if Doom Guard's active didn't work.
You know what he needed? He needed to pull that one from a Death Lord.
Definitely.
Avril needed to play Death Lord and then brawl.
Redox?
And apologies for the stream issues.
What is even happening?
Just did the thing with OBS again that seemed to work. Just hit stop streaming and start streaming again. Oh. Tinsel. And I hear armor being tapped and weapons being equipped. We're going to see what happens soon. Tapped into Gang Boss is what happened, and Belcher down on board now for Avril. Still a little bit ropey in terms of his health total, but I think he should be able to push himself out of range here safely with Justicar next turn, and that Doom Guard still sitting a little bit dead in the hand. Also, that taunt stops Redox from doing anything like playing Power Overwhelming on a different minion and then Doom Guarding, so...
If we just look at Avril's hand right now, look at all those threats, and next turn he can have Hero Power, Justicar, True Heart, and Hero Power again for 6 whole armor.
Wow, Avril actually, Redox rather, going to put down the Power Overwhelming on the Nerubian just to pop it for next turn. He's going to be able to clear out the Sludge Belcher though, which is nice enough given that he has a board, but the Justicar True Heart is going to be able to push him out of range fairly quickly.
Not actually the worst play here, coming with an
Execute
as well, which is really what he needed.
And actually Death Lord rather, he can just set up the Death Lord to stall out for another turn until he can get that full Justicar turn.
Yeah, that'll be really good. I'm hoping to see Death Lord and Justicar as well. Avril's having
I think
a little
he has
bit of a
the option of both. He can Death Lord and tap, or he can Death Lord Justicar. I think both are fine. Actually looks to develop the Harrison this turn. That's actually maybe a good play. Better stat line arguably than the Justicar, just because it dies to less things. And
going fishing
also
again.
The Warlock, he doesn't have weapons, so you're never going to get that draw off Avril. Unless Redox is running like Pulling Tron or something.
Can't quite kill the Death Lord this turn, just going to attack it. 2 of his minions down. There's not really much you can do. At least Starseeker in hand as well.
I think it's a bit greedy to not do the Justicar play here. You need that extra 6 life, otherwise you risk being taken out by any kind of burst. I mean, I think both Power Overwhelmings are gone. The first one going to the first Death Lord and the second one just now. Both Doom Guards have gone, but there's still the likes of Lance Carrier, there's still Dark Iron Dwarf, there's still a
Dark
lot
Peddler, we could get
Dark Peddler into another Power Overwhelming, you're dead right. So actually there's still options, so you need some life gain here if you're Avril. It's just a bit too greedy not to.
Alright, bit greedy coming down from Avril with a Dr. Boom and Hero Power. Hoping he clears the... Knife Juggler's definitely more of a threat at the moment, and he's going to go face with that as well.
Oh, the
Dark Iron Dwarf coming in, so he can actually trade his Haunted Creeper into the Death Lord, not even having to...
I think that's the correct play as well. Ooze, not quite ideal here. But for as long as Redox can afford to tap, tapping is never a bad idea, because at worst he can just develop the ooze to have another minion down. And what is this going to pull?
Dark Peddler, which he really did need.
Yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. There's no more brawls left though, so Redox building up a big board isn't a bad thing.
Deathbite coming in.
Just as the ooze has been played.
Yeah, not too bad, but Avril really needs the RNG of these boombots to be on his side.
Yeah, I also think it's desperate now that he sets up that Justicar. He needs to get the extra 6 health on his side, or he's just done for here. 1 boombot and 2 boombot. All things considered, a pretty favourable turn, and plus that 6 armor gain.
Decides
Redox
to go with the
himself.
Justicar True Heart.
Yeah, Avril pushed himself well out of range for Redox here. 12 damage needed for Redox. He's only got 4 on board. This could be another power overwhelming. And he Soulfire? Also Finley for the direct damage, potentially.
Only
Soulfire.
10 damage, so it leaves him on 2 health. However, he can armor up again next turn.
And there's no second Dark Peddler now, so Redox would be relying on having A, a minion, and B, something to buff it. He can
choice not
tap.
to clear those minions could be quite greedy from Redox. However, he is getting really desperate here. Draws into a Void Walker.
That's not bad. It is going to help him keep his board alive here. Again, Avril, he's out of AoE clear, so just 1 or 2 minions living could be
Shield
enough.
Slam
Ooh.
coming into Avril's hand. He does need that for the clear at the moment.
Yeah, Deathspite tap. He's not going to use the Shield Slam this turn. He's just going to set up the Deathspite, run that into the Void Walker instead, and tap, use his minions to clear the board. Funnily enough, one of them has to die into an acidic swamp ooze. So there you go, folks. If you ever wondered what the counter to Justicar is, it's an ooze.
Implosion in hand, which will... I mean, he can kill the Boombot with that, but
Yeah, I think
he
you
does
have
have
to.
the 1/1 on board.
Well, actually, Implosion is really bad this turn because of the Deathbite Death Rattle. He needs to be developing minions, but he kind of can't. So Avril might have finally been able to swing it in his favour.
Awkward hand for Redox this turn. Really can't do anything, eh?
He's going to go ahead and throw down the Implosion, knowing full well that it dies just to deal a little bit more damage to the Elise, and second Shield Slam. So awkward hand for Avril as well, actually. Just Avril happens to have a better board, and now it's Avril pushing for damage. Taps the armor again, even further out of range, and I think it's unlikely here that Redox is going to pull enough damage to win this game.
Power overwhelming in hand and the Defender of Argus.
I think that's the old Warlock bug. It's who knows what it is. I think it is a Defender of Argus. Sometimes bug cards have this bug where they look like they are 0 cost. And wait,
okay.
Is that it?
So it got buffed, but we can't see it.
Hold on, is that it? 6/6 and no, it's not. He's short still by 3.
3 short. Right, so he does have a 2/2 and a 3/2 on board as well. Macbeth the Golden Monkey coming into hand. He's going to use that one.
Plus tap. I think that's it. I think Avril is now going to be permanently out of range. That's really the last burst Redox had. No more Doom Guards. I think maybe he has a Dark Iron Dwarf, but he's got nothing on board. Nothing with charge. This looks a little bit dodgy.
Invisible Defender of Argus, and the concede coming in for Redox.
Played.
So game 3 going to Avril. That's all of Avril's decks now. So at the moment, he can choose which one that he wants to recycle. Use that. If he wins with that, then he wins Redox and is the winner.
Yeah. Now I wonder if the best deck to resurrect is actually that Control Warrior, because against Control Warrior it's about 50-50, but against Zoo it's good. So really he just has to beat the Zoo with it again. I feel like the Freeze Mage and the mid-range Paladin are both a little bit more tenuous in both of those situations.
Coming into game, we have Control Warrior versus Control Warrior.
The matchup to end the ages, and by that I mean it's going to be an age before it's ended. And both players actually starting off with fairly decent hands. I like Avril's just a little bit more because of the early cycle, and Redox unfortunately has a lot of
Jones
dead
in hand is not bad for a Warrior versus Warrior matchup, but so many weapons.
Yeah, both of these players are going to be sitting there with big hands until they draw it into something they can put on the board, like an Armor Smith. Justicar early in hand for Avril, I think, puts him just a little bit ahead. Now, the question is, do you go ahead and just develop a weapon so that your hand doesn't get too clogged up? And I think the answer is yes, because Harrison can only be used once, right? And if it gets used on a Fiery Warx, it's a lot better than on a Death
It's not too much
Bite.
of a problem. Alright,
there you
turn
go.
3, Big Game Hunter draw. Not really much he can do. He can also Fiery Warx if he decides to, but I think Redox is just really wanting to
Happy
armor
to
up
tap,
at this
yeah.
point.
And does Avril choose to push out the extra damage again here? He's going to shield block. That's a good one for him. Puts his health total just a little bit higher.
Pushing out the extra face damage here isn't actually that bad, considering that he does have 2 Death Bites in hand currently.
Yeah, and I kind of do like that, because at best he can Death Bite, at worst he can coin Sludge Belcher, and that's a pretty good worst play, right? And the only reason you do that is if you are intentionally trying to dodge. Harrison isn't going to go for that though, so Redox, he has a bit of a turn for himself here, but still nothing he can do. And Harrison is still a turn away from being developed, and
Fiery Warwick's Hero Power would be perfectly fine here, and that is what he is going to do, also getting off some base damage as well.
And take that. It's like a wet noodle fight right now. And coining out the Sludge Belcher as well. So keeps his weapon alive. It is going to go down to... No, he doesn't. Oh, he just completely dodged Harrison Jones. Great play by Avril.
Weapon and Bash coming down to remove the Sludge Belcher. Not a bad play on his behalf, is saving the Execute and the Shield Slam for bigger minions.
Yeah, and the Bash also helps him gain just a little bit more armor. It keeps him fairly healthy here. Question is now, what does Avril develop? On his turn 5, he can pop up a Death Spite actually, but that's going to get Harrisoned. If he swings face, it only draws 1 card, but he is going to go for it. I think Avril is just doing what he can to minimize the value Redox gets off of a potential Harrison. Really smart in the control mirror match.
Harrison Jones, we can probably see coming down now, and then next turn, Avril can easily clear that with a tap Shield Slam, or even just another Death Spite if he wants to.
Yeah, also has...
Possibly even Execute if that's what he really wants.
He's the one with all the options here, and actually I like just using the second Death Spite. Can tap armor again. And there you go. Like I said, you can only use Harrison once, and now Avril gets to hold that Death Spite indefinitely, and it's Redox who has to worry about a potential Harrison.
Right, Redox's turn, coming with a second brawl. That's really unfortunate.
Such a dead card.
Armor Smith into
Arbor? I think it has to be the turn here. He's got no other minions you want to develop. You can't play your control tools in a tempo out kind of way like you can in other matchups. That Big Game Hunter must stay in hand for a threat.
It's just so unfortunate to see Redox playing Control Warrior, but then not having a strong card to play on turn 7.
He does draw into a shield block, which is going to give him a chance to give him something on board. Can draw into a Sludge Belcher, but really what he needs is a good way to deal with this Justicar. Does have tap Shield Slam. That is the option. Well, actually, he doesn't need to tap if he's going to use the shield block. He can just Shield
really
Slam.
Good here. Draws
Hey, there it
Sludge,
is.
which is the perfect play, and then hitting Armor Smith.
I don't know, actually, is it? Because it does just straight up die to Justicar. Maybe dealing with the Justicar is a little bit better here, and holding the Belcher until next turn. And it does look like that's what he's going to go for. So first, Shield Slam off the table for Redox, but he will have the Sludge Belcher next turn.
Armor Smith still alive. Avril's turn now.
Ooh.
Looking at dropping Death Lord.
This is risky in
and
this matchup.
with having so many Execute, Shield Slams, weapons, everything like that, it's so risky. All we can really do is pray for Avril that Redox doesn't get something really amazing like Ysera.
Yeah, Ysera is probably the best you can get out of this as well, but even then a big body like Alex is good. He can't pull the Grom because that is in hand for Redox, but I would kind of like to see him just throw down even just Revenge and Execute. He is going to use the Armor Smith to do it, Execute, see what he gets, and maybe develop the Justicar as well, and Sylvanas.
Windrunner. He can... Avril is actually able to clear the whole board next turn, which is perfectly fine.
This is probably the one good brawl you'll get all game. Actually, he goes about it. Maybe wants to use the Execute. Didn't actually play his Acolyte knowing it would have got stolen, so good call there, and I
Hopefully we
imagine
can-
he's going to execute out that Justicar. Maybe
I
tap
think
Shield Slam?
Shield Slam might be a little bit better here. Just judging on.
Yeah, Execute is generally a more flexible card in this matchup.
Alright, actually chooses to go
No,
for the
one-
execute onto just a card. True Heart, clearing that up. Redox has so much armor.
And there comes the first Death Bite for Redox, clearing out the Acolyte, and that really dissuades any kind of minion play from Avril. Look at Avril's hand though, so much of it is dead, so much of it is answers, Brawl and Shield Slam. It's unlikely Redox builds up that big a board again, and Redox's effective health is just out of control right now.
Avril actually choosing to put down Shield Maiden when he knows that Redox has the answer to killing it. A little bit questionable.
Well, Redox can wait no longer. He's just going to go for it, get his first threat down, and I think that's because he's drawn the Ysera. He knows that if Gromash dies, it pulls out some form of removal, and actually by clearing up most of that armor, Avril won't be able to Shield Slam out. He's going to be able to Big Game Hunter this turn, will want to tap up, and actually no, next turn he will be able to just Shield Slam the Ysera. It's got to be Dr. Boom here,
Dr.
I'd say.
Boom in hand as well. Definitely a better play. Don't really need to clear the big game hunter just yet, as it's not too much of a threat. Hovering over the... Yep, Dr. Boom,
Yeah,
there we
Dr.
are.
Boom down. Is just going to tap up his own armor as well, and Avril maybe wants to Brawl here. I don't know how I feel about that.
Possible
Actually,
Brawl execute in hand as well. Also, Shield Slams can very easily Shield Slam that and get it out of the way. Or possibly attack it with Big Game Hunter and go bash.
yeah, I would like to
Fiery
see him
Warx.
actually Big Game Hunter and then Brawl, and then no matter what lives, he can bash it.
Alright, so it looks like he is actually
Just
going
goes
to
for the
go
Brawl.
Brawl. Let's see what we get.
Yeah, with 2 Shield Slams in hand, I think he just feels confident removing anything that lives. It is going to be the
Whoa.
Boom.
Very... Ooh.
Ooh, just barely enough to
Only
tap back up.
just.
And that is going to leave him enough armor as well to deal with the Ysera when it comes down. He'll be able to tap Shield Slam that one out. So Avril ahead of the curve right now just because he's dealt with just about all of Redox's threats. The only remaining thing here is going to be Alex Strauzer. He's dealt with Boom, dealt with Harrison,
Gromish.
Sylvanas, Grom, yeah. Justicar. It's just Alex Strauzer here.
Baron Geddon possibly as well.
The Emerald Drake is a good pull from the Ysera though, because it creates essentially another threat. It is a huge body.
Elise Starseeker coming into Avril's hand, and he
nice.
decides to play that immediately. Looks like the Fiery War Axe is...
Elise is just, she didn't quite land down. She's just going to snooze in the sky for a while yet. Hopefully that'll change when she comes to attack next.
There we
she
go.
goes. She cleared for touchdown, and Elise does make it to the board. This is an interesting deck. So Avril, he's running a Control Warrior variant that is using Elise. So Redox is running a much more old school kind of Control Warrior that's just about big threats. Whereas since League of Explorers, most Control Warrior decks have been like what Avril is currently running with the Elise to create big threats using Golden Monkey. And the cards you often want to convert are some of your control cards. Something like Brawl stops being as good later on in the game, so you often want to convert that into a Golden Monkey card. But here is now a built-up board by Redox. So what cards is Avril really going to have to keep for...
Another glitch with the Harrison Jones causing Avril to draw one card, which
But we don't know
can't
what.
see just yet, so
We'll
we
get
really can't judge on these decisions at the moment. The bash onto the Emerald Drake is definitely a really good
Surely
play.
he must. We may have to reload Spectator Client here, guys. I think we're having a few issues. And Harrison, he just sitting on the side of the screen, grinning at us like he's clever. You're not Harrison. Just sit on the board. And yeah, it
There
was
we
going to be
go.
bashed down. And Bone Guard Lieutenant actually
Wow.
came out of the Shredder. So all up, I would say good play by Avril, but he is lacking in cards now. He needs to get into that map to the Golden Monkey as quickly as possible. And this is the control matchup in a nutshell, isn't it? 2 huge health totems. Oh no!
gosh.
It's done it again.
Shield Maiden kind of coming down for Avril. 5 armor being drawn, and Shield Slam going on to the Shield Maiden as well.
I'll be honest,
So we got
folks,
rid of that technical glitch.
I don't know what to
Just
say
a tank
about
up
this.
coming for Redox there. Avril's turn shield block, really good. Needs some card draw at the moment.
Still just fishing for that map to the Golden Monkey. Hopefully he finds it soon.
There we
It
go.
goes. And now with 5 cards left, he puts the Golden Monkey in his deck, looking to draw that as quickly as possible. Death Lord. You can hold the Death Lord here. No, he wants to throw it out. He wants to pull another card from Redox's deck. And now the interesting thing is in the Fatigue matchup, Elise decks tend to win purely with threats. Alex Straza about to come down though, so Revenge Execute has to be held until Alex comes out. If Avril draws Golden Monkey, he cannot play it until Alex Straza.
I think that was really, really good on Avril's behalf because it gets rid of one of his executes. It costs him 5 armor, and it takes care of one of the cards in his deck, so he gets 1 more fatigue damage on top of him.
And it is the Alex that lives, but Revenge Execute, he can deal with it, and Acolyte of Pain is one of the best cards to convert with Golden Monkey.
So he actually chooses not to go for that, decides instead to take the 8 face damage. Bit questionable. Personally, I would have cleared it myself, but maybe Avril knows that he has something amazing in his deck.
Well,
Golden Monkey
so
played immediately.
He's out of his removal tools here, right? But, Iron Juggernaut is really big in this matchup because of how few cards are left. That's really huge. Malorn!
Oh my god!
Malorn in the
that is
Fatigue
amazing.
matchup is so
He doesn't
huge.
have a silence either, so it's gonna be on the board or repeatedly shuffled into the deck. You're just gonna always have something to play.
You can have 2 Malorns in play at once.
Never
with
take any fatigue damage.
That
is amazing.
Nuts. That's so perfect. Given that most of these matches go to Fatigue, the question here though is, can Avril clear the Alex? Because if he can't, Redox can still win just by DPSing down Avril quickly.
Redox choosing to equip the Death Lords and quickly attack with the Sludge Belcher.
Yeah, I think you swing again, yeah.
Alex Straza on the board for quick damage.
Baron Geddon is nice. And then this, unfortunately, having to clear the Taunt. Now the Death Spike going to be able to deal with the Iron Juggernaut, and Alex Straza gets to swing for another 8 damage. Malorn dying only prevents Fatigue if Malorn dies.
That is
Now,
true.
Alex going face now actually means there's a good chance Avril needs to go face with his Malorn and can't control the board with it.
2 Brawls still in hand, and a Big Game Hunter for Redox. That's a lot of clear.
Yeah, it's not looking super promising right now for Avril, actually, despite some really strong legendaries out of his Golden Monkey. And wow, face damage out of Redox here. Slam to cycle, Big Game Hunter for Malorn, and... Well, actually, sorry, not to cycle, just to clear. Malorn goes into the deck, and more face damage with Alex, so good job here by Redox, and he still has a Brawl if Avril overloads his board.
Mal'Ganis in hand. That could be really good for next turn. Just choosing to go with a Baron Geddon this turn to get rid of the Big Game Hunter. Sadly, the Alex Straza is still on board.
Yeah.
He's already taken 16 face damage just because he decided not to clear the 1.
Mal'Ganis could be enough though, because it forces the Alex Straza to attack something other than face, right? But Avril has to deal with Baron Geddon and whatever the remaining card is for Redox, and then all he has to do is trickle out his threats, and those Brawls are dead.
1 more card left in hand for Redox, and I just still can't stop thinking about those 2 Brawls.
Oh, actually, he can't play his own Baron Geddon
because it'll leave his Alex Straza dead next turn, exactly.
And then Avril can just evenly trade the Baron, so again...
even trading the Alex Straza into the Baron Geddon and then going his own Baron Geddon isn't the worst play.
I think that's funnily enough the best play here. It relies on Avril not having a way of dealing with that last Baron Geddon, but I mean, you can play those odds here quite comfortably. This Alex is going to get removed this turn though, and there's the Malorn again, and now it's looking really promising for Avril all of a sudden because the Malorn kind of prevents the fatigue. So does Mal'Ganis.
Last card, the Borrowing Mind. Completely forgot about that. 10 face damage going to Redox there. And Baron Geddon being the only minion that he has.
And it just gets dealt with by Malorn. And Avril, he can just never play these minions, right?
Brand Bronzebeard sadly not getting any active off the other cards.
If Avril doesn't play, he knows he hasn't seen any Brawls. He doesn't even need to play the Baron Rivendare. He can just sit tight with nothing but Malorn, and before he dies to fatigue, can just play down the Mal'Ganis, and he's going to be fine. There goes the Baron Geddon though, and chucking down Baron Rivendare on top of this is going to be all she wrote. That's 2 Malorns in the deck, stops fatigue for 2 whole turns. Redox is done for
I
here.
can hear Avril's excitement from over here. Baron Rivendare coming down, Melon going into
This is
Baron.
just
Get in
nuts.
for
Absolutely
2.
nuts.
Does it put
So
2
that
in the
does-
deck?
No, it's okay. Somehow that doesn't. But in any case, the fatigue is dodged, and that's going to be GG. Avril, 2 wins in a row with the Control Warrior, 1 in the mirror matchup, and wow, what a fantastic set of matches.
Congratulations to Avril, our first place winner.
Absolute grand champion, and a beautiful execution of the Control Warrior mirror matchup for that final game.
Sadly,
What a
he
treat.
didn't finish it undefeated, only having 1 death, but still,
Well,
that is totally amazing.
decent numbers, and all credit to Avril for taking out this tournament in handy fashion. Thank you very much for joining us, guys. This has been an absolute pleasure to watch and cast and bring to you. This has been EchoLan 18 Hearthstone. I have been Matt Pixie Carroll. Joining me has been Erica Alzarotha Wood, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, guys.